She was trembling, and when I handed her my jacket, she couldn't hold back her tears. The deep hum of the Odyssey's engines vibrated gently beneath Elias Crane's feet as he walked through the corridor. The ship was quiet, too quiet. Usually the research vessel buzzed with scientists analyzing data, engineers fixing minor faults, and the soft chatter of crew members. But today, there was only the low mechanical hum and the occasional flicker of the lights. Elias paused at the observation deck, looking out at the endless sea of stars stretching like silver threads across black velvet. He felt small, a tiny human in a universe so vast it almost made him dizzy. Yet despite the immensity, he felt a thrill that always accompanied exploration. Humanity had not yet colonized the stars, but humans were getting closer every day. Elias! The voice was smooth, almost melodic, and yet it carried an urgency that made Elias' skin prickle. He turned to see Kael'thar floating beside the observation window, his elongated limbs coiled in the ship's low gravity. The Scifi's translucent skin shimmered faintly, reflecting the stars, and his eyes, huge, deep, and violet, were fixed on the starfield beyond. "They are here," Kael'thar said, his tone low and deliberate. "I feel them." Elias frowned. "Who, another alien species?" Kael'thar shook his head slowly. "No, something older, something sleeping for centuries." Elias' curiosity flared. He had worked with Kael'thar for years, traveling the outer edges of known space. Kael'thar had always been right about strange phenomena. His species' senses went far beyond human perception. They could feel the vibrations of stars, red energy flows invisible to human instruments, and sense the intentions of intelligent life. But Kael'thar had never sounded like this before, urgency wrapped in tension, something Elias couldn't ignore. "Where?" Elias asked. Kael'thar pointed toward the star system they were approaching. One star among many burned brighter than its neighbors, and orbiting it was a small, rocky planet with a strange metallic glow that made the sensors on the Odyssey spike wildly. "That," Kael'thar said, voice sharp, "is where the machine waits." Elias stepped closer to the holographic display, which showed the planet in high-resolution 3D. "A machine? What kind of machine?" Kael'thar's gaze did not leave the planet. "Ancient, advanced, dangerous if ignored." Elias raised an eyebrow. "Dangerous if ignored, that's vague." Kael'thar's eyes locked on his. "I do not exaggerate. This is your only chance, human. Act now or regret forever." The words struck Elias like a lightning bolt. He had heard Kael'thar give warnings before, but the intensity in his tone, the way the stars themselves seemed to bend toward his focus, made Elias' heart race. He felt the weight of choice pressing on him. One decision could change not only their mission, but perhaps humanity's place in the galaxy. "All right," Elias said finally. "Let's see it." The Odyssey descended toward the planet with careful precision. Its engines glowed softly as it broke through the thin atmosphere, revealing a surface both beautiful and alien. Jagged mountains of dark metal stretched across valleys of glowing crystal. Rivers of liquid light, bright but not hot, snaked through the terrain. And at the center of it all, perched on a plateau, was the machine. It was enormous, circular, and unlike anything Elias had seen before. Its surface was smooth yet covered in shifting patterns, almost like living symbols. Lights flickered along its edges, pulsing slowly as if the machine itself breathed. The moment Elias saw it, a strange mix of awe and fear rippled through him. Kael'thar floated closer to the viewport, his tendrils brushing against the glass. "It recognizes you," he said quietly. "Or it senses what you can become." Elias frowned. "Sense what I can become? I'm just a human scientist, Kael'thar." Kael'thar tilted his head. "No, humans are capable of things others cannot yet imagine. This machine knows that." Elias swallowed hard. He had always believed in human potential, but to hear it confirmed by an alien with centuries of experience sent a shiver down his spine. The landing was smooth. As the ship touched the rocky plateau, Elias felt the vibrations through his boots. The machine seemed to hum louder, resonating with a frequency that almost felt alive. Kael'thar gestured for Elias to follow him. Together they floated, or rather walked in the low gravity toward the machine. As they approached, Elias could see intricate carvings across its surface. They were not letters or numbers in any human sense, yet they seemed to communicate something. He reached out, running a gloved hand across the smooth surface, and the carvings glowed faintly under his touch. A sudden projection burst from the center of the machine, a holographic figure of light. It moved fluidly, almost like water, but its shape suggested intelligence. Elias and Kael'thar froze. "Welcome, Seeker," the machine said in a voice that seemed both everywhere and nowhere. "You have arrived at the threshold. Only those who can see beyond the obvious may continue." Elias glanced at Kael'thar. "I guess that's us." Kael'thar's tendrils twitched. "Do not underestimate it. It will test your mind, human, your logic, creativity, and choices." Elias' pulse quickened. "All right, I can handle a puzzle." The machine responded with a series of shifting symbols, flashing in patterns that were impossible to memorize. Kael'thar's eyes narrowed, scanning the patterns. "I can interpret the energy flows," he said, "but the meaning is beyond me." Elias stared, fascinated. "Meaning beyond you?" "Yes," Kael'thar said softly. "It requires intuition, imagination, and an understanding of complexity that is human." Elias felt a surge of pride. It was a small moment, but significant. Despite all of Kael'thar's advanced senses, humans had something unique: creativity, emotion, intuition, that even an alien mind could not replicate. And now it seemed the universe itself had noticed. Elias took a deep breath. "Okay then, let's see what humans can do." The machine's symbols swirled faster, responding to his intent, almost as if it were alive. Elias realized the first test was not strength or speed, but understanding, a puzzle that would require patience, observation, and human ingenuity. Kael'thar hovered beside him, offering data streams and analytical input. Elias watched, processed, and then acted. He moved his hand, tracing the patterns in a sequence that Kael'thar would never have imagined. Slowly, the symbols began to align. A soft chime echoed through the plateau. The machine paused, and for a moment Elias thought it had failed. Then a section of its surface slid open, revealing a staircase leading downward, glowing faintly in golden light. Kael'thar's eyes widened. "You've done it. You have passed the first stage." Elias smiled, feeling a thrill unlike any other. "And it only took a human mind to do it," he said. Kael'thar nodded. "Yes, but remember, human, this is only the beginning. Your choices now will determine not only your fate, but the fate of many." Elias glanced back at the stars stretching endlessly above them. The universe was vast, mysterious, and full of challenges. But for the first time, he truly felt humanity's potential, bold, creative, and unstoppable. The staircase beckoned, and Elias knew that what lay below would test him in ways he could not yet imagine. But one thing was certain: he was ready. And Kael'thar's warning echoed in his mind. "This is your only chance, human. Act now or regret forever." With a final glance at his alien partner, Elias stepped forward into the glowing passage, ready to face whatever the ancient machine had in store. The golden light of the staircase bathed Elias and Kael'thar as they descended into the depths of the machine. The air was cool, but it felt alive, almost humming with anticipation. The walls were smooth, reflective, and covered with ever-shifting symbols that seemed to follow their movement. Elias' heart raced, not with fear, but with excitement. "This place," Kael'thar whispered, "it is older than most stars in this galaxy. Few beings have ever entered it. Fewer have returned." Elias glanced at his alien companion. "Then I guess we're about to join a very exclusive club." Kael'thar's large eyes flicked over him, emotionless but attentive. "I do not doubt you can handle it, human, but it will not be easy. The machine tests not your strength, but your mind, your choices, and your understanding of what is possible." Elias swallowed, feeling a thrill of challenge. Humans were curious by nature. Even when faced with danger or the unknown, they sought solutions. It was what had driven them to the stars. And now, deep inside a living machine, he felt the pull of that same curiosity stronger than ever. The staircase ended at a wide chamber. Its ceiling arched high above, and countless lights pulsed rhythmically, casting shadows that danced along the metallic floor. At the center stood a large pedestal with a floating cube made of light. The cube rotated slowly, projecting streams of alien symbols into the air. "This," Kael'thar said, hovering closer, "is the first real test. It is a puzzle designed to measure intuition, creativity, and the ability to see connections that others cannot. Humans excel at this, but even you must remain cautious." Elias approached the cube, noting how it shifted and adapted as he moved. He reached out, and the symbols changed in response to his hand. It felt alive, not in the sense of breathing or moving like an animal, but in the sense that it was aware of him. The first pattern flickered in front of him, a set of glowing symbols that resembled constellations, shifting in impossible geometries. Elias frowned. He had studied math, physics, and logic, but this was different. These patterns were not just numbers or formulas. They seemed to represent possibilities, choices, and outcomes. Kael'thar hovered silently, monitoring. Observe carefully, human, see the connections, not just the shapes. You may not understand the logic, but you can sense the patterns. Elias nodded. He took a deep breath and let his mind relax. He had learned from years of research that sometimes stepping back and trusting intuition revealed things rigid logic could not. Slowly, he began to notice a rhythm. Certain symbols pulsed in time with each other, others changed color depending on his hand movements. "This is weird," he muttered. "It's almost like it wants me to feel it, not just think about it." Kael'thar's tendrils twitched. "Exactly. Humans are unique in that way. Your emotions, your imagination, they allow you to perceive connections where others see only chaos." Elias smiled faintly. He moved his hand in a pattern that mirrored the pulsations he observed, letting the rhythm guide him rather than trying to force a solution. Slowly, the cube's rotation slowed. Symbols aligned. A section of the pedestal shifted, revealing a small doorway glowing faintly at its edges. Kael'thar's eyes widened. "Well done, human. You see the connections others could not." Elias felt a surge of pride. It was a small victory, but significant. He had faced a puzzle that would have stumped even the most intelligent alien minds, and he had solved it. Humans were more than data processors. They could combine logic, creativity, and intuition in ways no other species could. "Let's see what's next," Elias said, stepping through the doorway. The corridor beyond was narrow and winding, lined with panels that displayed streams of alien text and symbols. Some sections seemed to react to their thoughts, while others required physical manipulation. Kael'thar floated beside him, offering guidance. "Each test is different," Kael'thar said. "Some will be puzzles, some will be choices, and some will challenge your perception of reality itself." Elias nodded. "I think I'm ready for that." The first chamber opened into a larger room, filled with floating spheres of light. Each sphere contained a scene, alien cities, star systems, strange creatures, and events he could not begin to name. They rotated slowly, suspended in midair. The cube from the previous chamber hovered at the center, sending streams of symbols into the spheres. Kael'thar floated closer to one of the spheres. "These are representations of possible futures. The machine tests your ability to understand the consequences of your actions. Choose incorrectly and the path may close to you forever." Elias stepped closer, fascinated. The spheres were not random. They seemed to respond to him. When he thought about a certain pattern, one of the spheres glowed brighter. When he focused on another, it dimmed. "It's like a choice puzzle," Elias said, frowning. "But more than that, it's about seeing the ripple effects of each decision." Kael'thar nodded. "And this is where humans excel. You understand cause and effect, not just in numbers, but in living systems. You consider the feelings, the possibilities, the morality. No other species approaches it the same way." Elias took a deep breath. He had faced many challenges in his life, but this was different. It required not just intelligence, but empathy, imagination, and careful thought. He focused on one sphere. It depicted a world on the brink of disaster, its inhabitants struggling against a slow collapse. He traced the symbols projected into it, watching as they rearranged. Slowly, the scene changed, the collapse slowed, structures stabilized, and the people moved with purpose. Kael'thar's voice was quiet. "You are seeing not just the present, but the possibilities. Humans can visualize outcomes in ways others cannot. This is why you are here." Elias felt a sense of wonder. The machine was not just a puzzle, it was a teacher. And humans, with their creativity and intuition, were uniquely capable of learning from it. The sphere dissolved into light, and the cube shifted again, projecting a path forward. The next chamber was even larger, with walls that seemed to stretch into infinity, covered in symbols that moved like liquid. Elias felt a tingle in his spine. The chamber was vast, but he was not afraid. He was curious. "This next test," Kael'thar said, "will measure flexibility. Can you adapt when the rules are constantly changing?" Elias nodded. He had faced uncertainty before. Humans were not rigid. They could improvise, adjust, and innovate in ways that others could not. He stepped forward. The floor shifted beneath him, moving like a river of metal. Symbols raced past him, forming patterns that seemed impossible to follow. Elias focused, letting his instincts guide him. He moved in sync with the shifting floor, matching the rhythm of the symbols. Slowly, a sequence emerged, guiding him to the center of the chamber. Kael'thar floated beside him, impressed. You adapt quickly. You see patterns where others see chaos. Elias smiled. Humans are good at that. We survive by noticing the small things, the hidden connections. At the chamber's center, another cube hovered, smaller than the first. It projected a final symbol, glowing brighter than the rest. Elias reached out. The moment his fingers touched it, he felt a surge of energy, not pain, not fear, but a pulse of understanding. Symbols flashed around him, and the machine seemed to acknowledge him personally. You have completed the first challenge, a voice echoed, not from the machine, but inside his mind. Human creativity and insight have passed the test. Elias stepped back, breathing heavily, exhilarated. Kael'thar looked at him with an expression Elias could almost call admiration. Well done, human. Your mind is what allows us to progress here. No other being could have done this. Elias laughed softly. I guess humans are full of surprises. Kael'thar's tendrils brushed against the walls. And this is only the beginning. Each test will demand more from you, but each will also prove that humans are extraordinary. Remember, your choices matter, your creativity matters, and your courage will be needed. Elias nodded, feeling a surge of determination. Humans had come far, but he realized that in this chamber, in this machine, they were about to step even further into the unknown. The golden path ahead shimmered, and Elias felt the pull of discovery stronger than ever. He glanced at Kael'thar. Let's see what's next. Kael'thar's eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. Yes, human, the machine awaits, and so do the challenges that only you can overcome. Together they moved forward, deeper into the machine, into a world that seemed alive, full of puzzles and possibilities. And Elias knew one thing for certain. The universe had chosen him for a reason. Humans had always been explorers, thinkers, problem-solvers. And here in this ancient alien machine, those qualities would shine brighter than ever before. The golden path stretched ahead, winding deeper into the ancient machine. Elias moved carefully, feeling the smooth floor shift slightly beneath his boots. The walls shimmered faintly, and every step sent soft pulses through the air. He could feel the machine watching, testing, measuring. Kael'thar floated beside him, his violet eyes scanning the patterns that shifted and danced across the walls. This is the heart of the archive, he said. Few beings have entered here. The knowledge within is vast, older than your species, older than most stars. Elias felt a thrill he could not contain. Humans were explorers, seekers of knowledge, and right now he was standing on the edge of something extraordinary. I can't wait to see it, he said. They passed through a narrow doorway that opened into a massive chamber. The ceiling was impossibly high, and the walls shimmered with hundreds of floating panels, each glowing with symbols that moved like living code. Some symbols resembled star maps, others looked like strange creatures or structures that defied logic. At the center of the room floated a massive sphere of light, projecting holographic images of entire civilizations. Elias felt dizzy from the sheer scale. Kael'thar hovered beside him, his tendrils brushing against the glowing floor. This is the core, Kael'thar said. The archive of the ancient civilization. Its knowledge is stored not just in data, but in patterns, in choices, in possibilities. It will take both our minds to unlock it. Elias nodded. Let's get to work. The first task was simple in appearance but complex in execution. The panels on the walls displayed streams of alien symbols that changed rapidly. Elias realized that each symbol was not just information, but a piece of a puzzle. They formed networks, linking ideas across distances in ways that his human mind struggled to comprehend. Kael'thar's eyes glowed faintly. I can read the energy flows, I can see the patterns, but understanding the meaning that requires intuition. Elias smiled. Intuition, that's what humans do best. He began moving through the chamber, his hand hovering over the panels. He noticed subtle connections, a color change here, a pattern repetition there. Slowly, he started to understand. The symbols represented decisions, choices that civilizations had made long ago. Some had flourished, others had failed. Elias felt a thrill of realization. This machine was not just a repository of knowledge, it was a teacher. It was showing him the consequences of choices, the paths that could lead to success or failure. And humans, with their creativity and empathy, were uniquely able to interpret it. Kael'thar watched silently. Most species would see only data. You see meaning. Elias' pulse quickened. He focused on a cluster of symbols that seemed to represent a world on the brink of collapse. He traced the patterns with his hands, imagining what could have been done differently. Slowly, the symbols rearranged, showing a path to recovery, a civilization saved by innovation, cooperation, and careful planning. Humans think differently, Elias said softly. We don't just see numbers, we see possibilities, people, consequences. Kael'thar's eyes glowed brighter. And that is why you are here. This knowledge cannot be unlocked by logic alone. It requires creativity, insight, and heart. The machine seemed to respond to his words. Panels shifted, opening pathways that led deeper into the chamber. Elias followed, moving through corridors that twisted and turned, each filled with new puzzles and holographic challenges. At one point, they entered a room where light and sound were the only guides. Floating symbols formed shapes that resembled living beings, and each movement produced a melody that resonated in the air. Elias realized that the machine was testing not just his mind, but his senses, his awareness, and his ability to interpret patterns in unfamiliar forms. Kael'thar extended a tendril toward one of the symbols. I can detect energy but not meaning. You must guide us. Elias closed his eyes, letting the music wash over him. He noticed the rhythm, the changes in tone, the way the symbols interacted. Slowly, he moved his hands in time with the music, tracing invisible paths in the air. The symbols responded, aligning into a coherent pattern. The melody became harmonious, and a doorway opened at the far end of the room. Kael'thar's eyes were wide with admiration. Incredible, human, you interpret not just data but art, emotion, and structure simultaneously. This is uniquely human. Elias felt a surge of pride. Humans were often underestimated, especially by species far older and more advanced than them. Yet here in this alien machine, his creativity and perception were not just useful, they were essential. The next chamber was even more complex. Holographic projections of entire star systems floated in the air, each linked by beams of light. Elias realized that the machine was presenting him with a network of civilizations, each connected through trade, culture, and conflict. The challenge was to find a solution that balanced growth, harmony, and sustainability across the network. Kael'thar hovered beside him, his eyes scanning the beams of light. I can calculate probabilities, he said. I can predict outcomes based on variables, but I cannot see the ethical or cultural implications. That is yours. Elias studied the network. He imagined the civilizations as living beings, each with its own needs, strengths, and weaknesses. He traced paths of influence, adjusting connections to maximize cooperation and minimize harm. Slowly, the beams of light shifted, forming a network that seemed balanced, vibrant, and thriving. Done, Elias said, stepping back. It's stable. All civilizations can grow without conflict. Kael'thar's tendrils brushed against the holographic panels. You have succeeded where many would fail. Humans are not just capable of understanding complexity, they can act with wisdom and foresight. This is why you were chosen. Elias smiled. I guess humans aren't as fragile as they sometimes think. Kael'thar's gaze softened. Fragile. Perhaps, but resilient, imaginative, and adaptable. That is what matters. The machine seemed to recognize their progress. A massive doorway opened, revealing a spiral staircase leading upward. The light from above was warm and inviting, but Elias sensed that the challenges were far from over. This next level, Kael'thar said, contains the most advanced knowledge. It will test not just your mind, but your understanding of life itself. Are you ready? Elias took a deep breath. I didn't come this far to stop now. They ascended the staircase, each step feeling heavier with anticipation. The walls shimmered with data, history, and wisdom from countless civilizations. Elias felt both excitement and humility. He was walking through the accumulated knowledge of beings far older and wiser than himself. At the top, they entered a circular chamber. In its center floated a massive sphere, larger than anything they had seen before. It pulsed with golden light, projecting streams of information into the air. Elias realized that this was the core of the archive, containing insights not just about technology, but about culture, ethics, and coexistence. Kael'thar hovered beside him, quiet and reverent. This is what few beings have ever seen. Most would collapse under the sheer complexity. You will learn from it. Elias stepped closer, reaching out to touch the sphere. As he did, streams of information flowed into his mind, not in words or numbers, but in feelings, patterns, and possibilities. He could see the successes and failures of countless civilizations, the choices that led to growth or destruction, and the delicate balance that sustained life across the stars. It was overwhelming, yet exhilarating. Humans were small, fragile, and short-lived, yet their ability to interpret, adapt, and innovate allowed them to navigate challenges that no other species could. Elias felt a surge of pride, not just for himself, but for all of humanity. Kael'thar's voice broke the silence. You see it, human, the complexity, the beauty, the responsibility. Few could handle this knowledge, but humans are different. Elias nodded. Different, yes, but capable, and will use what we learn wisely. The sphere pulsed brighter, acknowledging his words. The machine seemed to recognize the human mind as a partner, not just a visitor. And in that moment, Elias understood that this was not just a test, it was a gift. The universe had chosen humans for a reason, and he was standing at the center of that choice. As the light settled, Kael'thar spoke again. We have come far, human, but there is still more to understand. The machine's knowledge is vast, and the challenges ahead will require all your creativity, empathy, and courage. Elias looked at the glowing sphere, feeling both awe and determination. I'm ready, humans are ready. Together, they moved deeper into the chamber, into the heart of the ancient machine, where the knowledge of countless civilizations awaited, and where humanity's unique mind would shine brighter than ever before. The golden sphere pulsed softly in the center of the chamber, bathing Elias and Kael'thar in warm, radiant light. The air seemed to hum with energy, vibrating against their senses as if the machine itself were alive. Elias could feel it watching, testing, measuring, not his strength, but his mind, his intuition, and most importantly, his morality. Kael'thar hovered closer, his violet eyes reflecting the golden glow. This is different, human, he said quietly. All the puzzles so far tested skill, perception, and creativity. This tests your understanding of consequences, your ability to make choices that affect others. Elias swallowed. He had faced challenges before, mathematics, physics, problem-solving, but never one like this. The weight of responsibility pressed on him. One wrong choice here could have consequences far beyond their comprehension. The sphere pulsed brighter and streams of light formed into a vision before them. Elias gasped. A civilization, vast and intricate, floated in the projection. Its people moved with purpose, but their world was on the brink of collapse. Energy shortages, environmental decay, and societal tension had brought them to the edge. The machine spoke, its voice deep and resonant, echoing in the chamber and inside Elias' mind. Human, observe this civilization. You may unlock the energy and knowledge stored within this archive, but doing so will change the balance of many worlds. Will you act to save this one, knowing the risk to others? Or will you hold back, preserving the balance but leaving them to fail? Elias looked at Kael'thar. We're responsible for this? Kael'thar's eyes were solemn. Partially, the machine tests moral reasoning. Many species would act recklessly, prioritizing immediate gain. Humans, you consider broader consequences. This is your strength. Elias felt his pulse quicken. He studied the projected civilization. He could see the problems clearly. Their energy sources were dwindling, their cities failing, their populations struggling. The choice seemed simple: intervene and provide them the knowledge and energy, or do nothing and preserve the balance across other systems. But Kael'thar's warning echoed. Consider the consequences, human, not just one world, but many. Elias' mind raced. He imagined the ripple effects of every choice. If they acted, the civilization would thrive, but energy could be destabilized in neighboring systems. If they did nothing, the people would suffer, possibly perish, but the cosmic balance would remain intact. The weight of the decision felt immense. He closed his eyes, letting his intuition guide him. Humans had survived for millennia not just through brute strength, but through careful thought, empathy, and creativity. He needed a solution that didn't choose one extreme over the other. Opening his eyes, Elias reached toward the sphere. There has to be another way, he said. A solution that doesn't destroy one for the other. Kael'thar tilted his head. You can think of such possibilities. Elias smiled faintly. We humans are good at finding creative compromises. He began tracing the beams of light connecting this civilization to others, imagining pathways of energy distribution, knowledge sharing, and cooperation. Slowly, a solution formed in his mind. They could unlock the machine's energy in a controlled way, providing support to the struggling world while carefully stabilizing the surrounding systems. It required precision, coordination, and constant monitoring, but it was possible. Elias moved his hands through the holographic streams, adjusting the flow of energy and information. The beams shimmered, pulsing with life as the changes took effect. He could feel the civilization responding, stabilizing, growing stronger. At the same time, neighboring worlds remained unharmed, their systems balanced. The machine pulsed brighter, acknowledging the solution. Human, you have succeeded. You understand the balance between immediate action and long-term consequences. You act with foresight, empathy, and creativity. This is uniquely human. Kael'thar hovered silently, his tendrils brushing lightly against the chamber walls. Few species would attempt such a solution. Most would act selfishly or blindly. Humans, you consider life itself. Elias felt a surge of pride. He had faced the ultimate test, not strength, not intellect alone, but the ethical responsibility of a civilization. Humans had often been underestimated, but here in this ancient machine, their unique qualities, creativity, empathy, moral reasoning, had shone brighter than anything else. "Are we done?" Elias asked, still processing the magnitude of what had just happened. Kael'thar's eyes glowed softly. "This test is complete, but the lessons are ongoing. You must remember, human, knowledge without wisdom is dangerous. You have proven that humans possess both." Elias nodded. The chamber around them shifted, the golden sphere dissolving into beams of light that formed a doorway. Beyond it lay a corridor lined with glowing inscriptions. Elias realized they were moving toward the final stage of the machine, a stage that would challenge everything he thought he knew about the universe. As they walked, Kael'thar spoke again. "The ethical test was more than observation. It was a measure of your species' potential. You act with intention, consider others, and think creatively. This is why humans thrive, even among more advanced civilizations." Elias smiled. "We're not perfect, but we try, and sometimes that makes all the difference." They entered a room filled with floating orbs, each projecting a scene of a civilization's past, present, and potential futures. Elias realized the machine was teaching them not just about energy and technology, but about life, ethics, and coexistence. Kael'thar's voice was calm, yet carried weight. "You see it, human, the consequences of choice, the responsibility of power. Few species can balance knowledge and morality as you have." Elias reached out, touching one of the orbs. He felt the lives of countless beings flow through his mind, not just numbers, but emotions, culture, and hope. The human capacity to imagine, empathize, and create solutions had allowed him to succeed where others would fail. The orbs shifted, aligning into a pathway leading deeper into the chamber. Elias knew this was more than a test, it was preparation. The machine had judged him and found humanity worthy. Kael'thar hovered beside him. "The final stage awaits, human. It will challenge your intellect, your creativity, and your courage. But know this, humans are capable of greatness. You have proven it here." Elias felt a sense of determination unlike anything before. The ethical test had reminded him that strength alone was not enough. Knowledge must be paired with wisdom, decisions with empathy, and creativity with responsibility. Humans had faced such challenges throughout their history, and here, in the heart of an ancient machine, those qualities shone brighter than ever. The doorway ahead pulsed with light. Elias glanced at Kael'thar. "Let's finish this." Kael'thar's eyes glimmered. "Yes, human, together we will see what the universe has in store." They stepped through the doorway, leaving behind the chamber of ethical tests. Elias knew the final stage would push him to his limits, but for the first time, he felt fully confident in humanity's unique strengths. Creativity, empathy, and foresight had guided him this far, and they would guide him to the ultimate discovery. As the light engulfed them, Elias felt a surge of purpose. Humans had always reached for the stars, seeking knowledge, adventure, and understanding. Here in this ancient machine, they were more than explorers. They were teachers, decision-makers, and creators. And the universe was watching,